Hello there. Welcome to the Amber Show. So hopefully you are not a stranger here. What goes on here is education, definitely some empowerment. We add humor, information, and just a good vibe generally. It is not just a talk show, it's a live show. We talk about life, we unpick life, we find solutions to the things that stress us in life, and we make progress together. It is the Amma Manson Show, and my name is Amma, your girl, your educator, your motivator, and I kick your hand wherever we need to. Enjoy, invite other people to join in, and hopefully you have a wonderful, wonderful experience on today's show. Let's get straight into things.
Well, hello everybody. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever the time happens to be where you are. It's good to have you. So those of you who are familiar with the channel are used to the fact that we talk about empowerment, we talk about development, we talk about progress. And today I actually want to discuss a really huge topic, something we've lived with for a long, long time. Many of us don't acknowledge, but it's still there. I will come to the details of it, but I'm just going to go to my guests and I will let my guests introduce themselves the way they want you to know. So let's start from the top. Good evening, Araba.
Good evening, Amma. And thank you for having us here.
Pleasure, sis. Tell us a little bit about yourself, my dear.
Okay, so my name is Araba Hiba Osei Kwesi. On Facebook, I'm Hiba Araba Said, same person. I'm a researcher and a lecturer at the University of Sheffield. I live in Chester, and so I do visiting lecturing at Chester University as well. Yeah. My background is in public health nutrition. I'm emphasizing on the nutrition so people know that I'm a nutritionist, a public health nutritionist, coming to talk about child sexual abuse today.
That's very interesting. It sounds very clever. It's wonderful to see clever people like that. Welcome, my dear.
Thank you. Thank you, Amma.
Next to Araba, we have Kofi Owusukume. And Kofi, good evening.
Thank you, Araba. Thank you for having me. Well, my name is Kofi Owusukume. I'm a school teacher in Coventry, and I live in Coventry. One of the officials of Stacan. My wife is the leader of the group. She formed it. So I'm one of the backers of the charity. So we're here to talk about one of the important issues that's been mentioned. So, yeah.
All right. Welcome. Thank you for coming. All right. There's Tina in the bottom bit. Hi, Tina. Good evening, Tina.
Good evening. I'm Tina Cronji, and I'm a UK-based social work practitioner, mainly working in children's services. Married, mother of 4 adult children.
Fabulous. Welcome. It's good to have you. And last but certainly not least is Elsie. Elsie, good evening.
Good evening. So my name is Elsie Owusukume. I am a social worker. I am a child protection social worker, and then I have also been working with children in care. And my passion is working with children. Yes. And whilst on that, I'll just briefly say that we here are myself and
and have restored
we
signal.
are like Stacan. So I can see on the screen it says what is Stacan. So basically we are also representing Stacan. So Stacan basically stands for Standing Together Against Child Abuse and Neglect. We are a group of professionals working with children in various capacities, and we have come together to promote work to promote the well-being of children. Our focus here is the African child, and streaming it down, we're starting from our own country, Ghana. So we're looking at the Ghanaian child, we're looking at the African child, and our motto is promoting the well-being, or our slogan is promoting the well-being of children. And we're doing it's an up and coming charity. We've just been newly formed, and we've got a number of people working with us, and really passionate people who share in those vision, who share in those dream. And yes, we are working hard on those dreams. We are asking that if you are out there and you want to work with us, by all means get in touch, and together we would push that vision forward.
Okay, so standing together against child sexual abuse and neglect, right?
Standing together against child abuse and neglect.
Child
But
abuse.
then for this show, we are looking at like child sexual abuse. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Right, so guys, good evening, welcome. Thank you for joining. Yes, Mamle, I was going to send you a personal invitation. I'm glad you are here. Cut across what you do. They are an organization I would highly recommend you contact and see what liaison you'll be able to establish between the two of you. Mamle does parental alienation on YouTube. And I think it's one of those which is sort of connected, and both of you could help each other do well together. So we are talking about children, we are talking about neglect. I am going to go around the guests again, and I'm going to ask them. I'm curious, I have questions. Arba, good evening again.
Good evening, Amma.
I'm a bit confused. So, what has a public health scientist got to do with child sexual abuse again? What are you doing in this group, and what do you bring to the table?
Very good question, Amma. As a public health researcher, I'm interested in people's health. Child sexual abuse has implications on health. So for me, anything that has implications on health is of interest to me. Even though I focus on nutrition, I'm broadly part of the public health team. So yeah, it is of interest to us as well.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting. So it's not just the typical social workers. I think a lot of people will see the topic and assume it's just for social workers. And I want to highlight that fact. It's not just social workers.
No.
There are many diversity of people needed on the team. Right. So as for you, you chase crazy people, we understand it. What are you doing here in child neglect and protection? What's your business here?
Thank you. So I work in the UK as a teacher, and we
Yeah.
have the teaching standards. So basically, sort of a bunch of rules that guide the conduct of teachers. And
Yeah.
one of them is states that we have to safeguard the well-being of children at all times.
Okay.
So teaching and learning is very important, but the first thing got to be safeguarding the interests of the children, making sure that they are safe and they are well. So that means that we are interested in children not being abused, including sexual abuse that we're talking about. So that's very important to us as well. And also, so we're one of the elements here to safeguard the safety of the children. So that's why I'm here. And we've got a lot to offer in terms of being with the children for most part of the working day. So that's why we're here. So we've got our perspective on how to keep children safe as well.
Okay. So you are actually the eyepiece of the system, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we go legally role to play. Yeah.
Typical social workers. I think absolutely. I'm hoping that good evening, everybody. Good evening, Auntie Lunch. Good evening, Aisha. Welcome, everybody. So it's not entertainment tonight, unfortunately. It is one of those topics that we need to have discussed a long time ago. It hasn't been discussed, so I'm privileged that this group wants to come and chat to us about child protection, basically. But they are focusing on neglect. So Tina, your role is a bit obvious. You are a social worker. In the Ghanaian community, you are our enemies, right?
Yes.
What's your role in this, and why do you think we should discuss this generally in the mainframe?
Okay, I'm a social worker with 15 years experience. I've worked in different teams across the social work sector. I've done safeguarding, child in need, looked after children, fostering. So I've done quite a wide range. My interest in this is that I'm very passionate about children and the abuse that they suffer. And I think sometimes a lot of the reasons, especially amongst the Ghanaian community, is like ignorance or not being aware of the expectations in the UK, because certain things that we do in Ghana might be fine, culturally acceptable. But in the UK, will bring you against the local authorities, and then you might end up with social workers involved in your lives. So
All right.
we're here to support, parents who might need a little bit of help, just guidance onto how to abide by the law in the UK.
An incident with ginger comes to my mind right here when you say that. So yeah, your kid does something, and as punishment, you might involve ginger. And we just recently heard in the UK you can't involve ginger. So maybe we need
Yes.
to know some of those things so that we don't fall foul of the law. That's important. So Elsie, I'm curious. Why do you think this group is actually necessary? Why should we be discussing? I mean, our kids are well dressed. They are well fed. They don't lack. What do you mean by neglect, especially for you guys in the UK? What neglect are you on about?
Okay. So like I said before, I am a social worker working with I work with children. I am a children's social worker. So working in child protection and previously working with children in care or looked after children.
Right.
My interest in children is, I am really passionate about, the work I do. And for me, I always tell my colleagues that, this job, the social work job is education. Yeah. You know how people are called to be pastors,
Yeah.
there, you have a calling. Yeah. And I think that it's my view that to be a social worker, you should have that calling, because social work is really tedious, really challenging. You come across, really difficult situations. You come across, for instance, domestic violence situations. You come across children who have been sexually abused. You come across, migrant children, refugee children, trafficked, kids who have been trafficked, really difficult situations, poverty, kids in poverty, and, so that if you don't have the passion for this job, you would end up, you wouldn't have the energy to continue. So for me, that's why I'm saying that it's more of a vocation, it's more of a calling. And what keeps us going, what keeps us going is in the fact that it is rewarding. It's in the fact that we're able to put, after all the hard work, after all the stress, after all the challenges, we are able to put a smile on that child. We're able to prevent abuse. We're able to support kids and families who are experiencing abuse. We are able to touch life, able to help families, individuals and families move their lives forward. And you're able to come home, and then you're able to, again, as a practitioner, you're able to reflect on whatever work you have done with a particular family, how you have helped them move their lives forward. And for us and for me, this gives me so much joy. This is so rewarding. And then, it serves, it kind of gives you some new energy to keep going. So yes, I am passionate about what I do. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I can feel the passion just listening. It's really exciting. But what I really want to know is, okay, fine, you've been doing your social work thing in a corner for a while. You are intervening for children. Why did you want to start a group? Why is a group necessary?
I think the line is. Do you mean why? Do you mean the charity, right?
Yes. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me okay?
I can.
Yeah.
I can hear you too.
I just can hear you now.
You can. Fabulous. Elsie, can you hear me? No, I don't think Elsie can hear
Okay.
me.
So, Amma, could you repeat what you just said? Yeah.
Okay. I was asking, I mean, I understand, I see the passion for social work, and that bit is fine, but why did you want to start the charity? Why? What's the actual need for the charity?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you why the charity, right?
Yes.
Yeah. 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 So basically, the idea, the brain behind this is, you are just like, okay, so I'm a Ghanaian. I have been born in Ghana, raised in Ghana, and then I have come here, and to do what I like, to do what I am passionate about, to do what I love. And within that, I have studied and have gained academic knowledge, and I am gaining experience working with different families, being confronted by different issues, addressing issues faced by families, impacting lives, putting smiles on families, on children, making people's lives better. And then you are like, okay, so what can I do for my own community? And that is where this is all from, So what can I do from my own community? What can I give back? Yeah, so this is a way of giving to my society, where I come from, where I originally come from. Yeah.
Okay. So it's a little bit of a legacy project, is it? Okay. All right. Sounds good. But let me come to you again. So
Okay.
we will do recruitment and whatnot. I have put contact details for the organization on the screen. Those of you who are intrigued by the organization, for sure, please do feel free to reach out to them. You can put your questions on this broadcast and I'll try and get as many of them answered as possible. But direct contact remains the best way to get accurate information from the organization. By the time we are done, I want more of you to realize that you need to join them. I want more of you to understand this is a community project. No, it's not a group of 4 or 5 people who've got more time on their hands to give. It's a call out to the whole community. And I want them to explain. So, Araba.
Yes, Amma.
What do you do in this organization? Like, what does it really mean to be a Stacan, to be an expert in your area here? What do you do in this organization?
Amma, I must say that I'm really new.
Yeah,
Elsie might want to answer that question for me because I'm just the latest member to join.
Oh no, I knew that. That's why I'm asking. Why have you joined? What do you bring to the table? What's the deal?
I already explained to you why I'm on board. I'm, as a public health expert. And so I'm all for community enterprises, especially the fact that they're focusing on the African child. If you look at my own research, I focus on BME communities, so anything that has to do with the improvement of the lives of Black people, BME people, is something I'll subscribe to. So, yeah.
All right. Kofi, I'm here to visit. We already said you are the gossips who pass information to these social workers so they can foment our lives and stop us from abusing our own kids and whatnot.
Yeah.
What I'm fascinated about and what I want to us into the community is that role of teachers. I don't think many people from our community really know how closely we watch their kids. They don't know at all.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Well, in our community, there's some almost believe that we just snoop around the kids and inform the social service about what they are wearing, what they're eating, and the rest of it. So that's what we do. We sort of an appendix to the social services. But so we're in different community groups here in Coventry, and anytime we get a chance, we try to explain to parents the important role that we play in school.
Yeah.
Apart from the teaching and learning bit, also we talk to children, we inspire them, we talked about daily issues, career, and different things. So we're sort of a part of the family, if you like, the bigger family. We try to get to know the children at a normal level, apart from the classroom setting, try to know them personally, and then, so that we can discuss different issues that comes up and try and support them in as much as we can, or pass on information to people who can help, in terms of support that they need, apart from their parents. So basically that's that. So I'm in the group to also give a perspective of a teacher. I mean, the main focus today is on child abuse, and then I was just talking to my wife about the peer abuse as well is there. It forms really a big portion of abuse that is adolescent to adolescent or children to children abuse, ranging from sexual abuse to harassment and the rest of it. So we give that bigger perspective of the things that Stacan trying to do, and so that we get a broader spectrum of the things that we can use to help back home in Ghana. Yeah.
Okay, so that end is one I'm very interested in. And Kofi, I am still with you because I want to draw home a fact.
Yeah.
From the classroom, I always say to people who watch me, I am the person who watches your kids the closest.
Yeah.
I am the one who picks up the cues. And if you don't do right by the kids, I'm probably the first person who will know.
Yeah.
There are clear signs of neglect, and we are all professionally trained to see them. But I want people in the community to understand these signs of neglect, because some kids are actually technically not neglected, but it's mainly from ignorance of the parents.
Yeah.
Classic examples is the black fingernails that you send your kids to school. And I see black fingernails and I see poor personal hygiene, and I don't see a vigilant parent.
Yeah.
Because as a vigilant parent, you'll be watching certain things. So I want to talk a little bit around the signs of neglect. Because if a kid is in your classroom and your kid is neglected, what sort of things will ring alarm bells to you?
Well, the attitude, our attitude, I mean, in terms of contribution in lesson activities, it sometimes feed through from attitude to behavior as well. All right, behaving in such a way that drawing attention, to themselves. Okay, and then the manner of contribution and conversation that goes on between these kids and the rest of the group, and also communication with the teacher. So you pick these things up, the things changing, behavior changing in terms of all the factors I've mentioned, and then sometimes physical. You can actually see, like you just example that you just mentioned, school uniform, untidy uniform, and untied laces. That, I mean, and smell and different things that we see physically or see it, and parent probably wouldn't be seeing them. Consciously, but these are some of the things that give us the telltale signs of that children are being neglected, or there's something not quite right with these children, and then we pick some of these things up and we pass it on for other members of staff to follow it and make sure that everything is all right. Yeah. So yeah, if support is needed, our workers will step in. Yeah. So that's what. Yeah.
In fact, it is actually a job we do in support of the parents to make sure that if something is not right with their children, we report to the right services. And it's always with the intention to seek support for the child.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily to report to the parents or to make life difficult for anybody else, but they act in loco parentum, and it's the calling of a teacher to make sure that the child is well cared for at all times, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I will come back and we'll talk through some of those signs, but let me go talk to the social worker a little bit more. Tina, are you okay?
Just about. It's better now. Yeah.
Okay. While it's still okay, let me speak to you before things begin to get better. There is some clip noise. I think it's from a device. Tina, my TV. Yeah, it's from Tina. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Tina, let me ask you from the social worker's point of view. Give me some classic signs of neglect. How do we know that we are failing our own kids? How do we know that we've neglected our kids? What are the telltale?
How do we know
we've neglected our children? What are the signs of neglect?
Okay. Children going hungry. Sometimes children will come into school and they're hungry. They're always looking for food. They become isolated and withdrawn.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It could be that the home conditions, homework not being done. They come to school unkempt, uniform not washed. They're not dressed appropriately. Lack of food, lack of sleep. They come to school tired, falling asleep in the classroom. Parents not taking the children for health checkups. So they're not having the dental checkup or eye checkups, or if they're ill, not going to the GP for medical assistance.
Okay.
So it's really about a child not being looked after properly.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a signs of neglect, and usually it starts from the home.
Okay. All right.
But what I want to say is that child abuse or neglect is not just down to social workers or teachers picking up. It's the whole community who is responsible to be keepers of the children, because the kids are vulnerable. Sometimes they don't even know what's going on in the house.
Can you explain this a little bit more for me? I mean, my neighbor has a kid. Isn't that his business and maybe a problem for social workers? Why is that a problem?
Because social workers cannot be everywhere. So
Okay.
rely on the public to give us information if they're concerned about a child who's living next door to him. Maybe you hear the child cry every single night at the same time. It could be that the parents have gone out and left the child by themselves.
Okay.
Or maybe it could be that there's domestic abuse within the family. So the parents are fighting, which the child is picking up and screaming.
Okay. All right. So what if they come to church?
What if they're going to church?
Yes. Is that anybody's business in church, or are we just here to serve God and go home?
It's everybody's church. And a lot of abuse actually takes place. Some abuse also takes place in the churches. So everybody should keep their eye open. Oh, yes. Because of sometimes of our own kind of religious beliefs that you can't do this or you can't do that, or a child should be brought up a certain way. For example, forcing a child to go to church is a form of abuse because the child might not want to go. Maybe he likes to play football. So on a Sunday, it's when he has his football practice. Because he has to go to church, he's missing out on that. And that is not good for his socialization and development as well.
Can you slow down and explain? Forcing a kid to go to church is abuse?
Yes, it could be a form of abuse because you might want to go to church.
Right.
The fact that you are religious doesn't mean you should force your beliefs onto your child. Yes, if they're very young, you can take them and they will not say anything. But as they get older, maybe 10 or 11 or 12 and into teenage years, they may not want to come with you. Yeah. And therefore, by you forcing the child to go to church might be a kind of emotional abuse because he doesn't want to go. And you're dragging him or her to come to church with you. It could be that there's somebody in the church that they don't like. It doesn't have to be, maybe they want to do something else, but it could be that there's somebody in the church that they don't feel comfortable around, and that's why they don't want to come.
Okay. Right. This is a real eye-opener. I hope it's connecting with the audience as much. I'm intentionally exploring particular things because there are some things that most of us don't realize. Most of us think that as parents, we can do whatever we like with the kids and it's absolutely within the law, and it's not. We have our rights and so do the kids. And I want us all to understand it so we don't fall foul of the law. Tina, that is a huge, huge one there. And seen many stories, particularly coming from Netherlands. I don't know why, but it's not just restricted to Netherlands. We've seen a lot of interesting stories of what happens to Ghanaian children in Ghanaian churches, and it's not things that we would like to see repeated in a community. So I'm so glad we've gone with that one. Forcing someone to do anything against their will is an abuse of a That's interesting. Thank you, Tina. I'll come back and visit in a little while. Elsie, hello. Can you hear me, Elsie?
Yeah. I can hear you. Yeah, and I think I am so far. I am enjoying the background knowledge we are sharing so far. Before we zoom into the main topic, obviously the main topic for this evening is child sexual abuse, and support. But I think that in order for us to address this topic, we need to basically have a good grounding or a good understanding in terms of what we examine by child abuse, because within child abuse we've got different categories. We've got physical abuse, we've got emotional abuse, we've got neglect, we've got sexual abuse and all that. So I think the background is important, and then I will just begin mine by giving an overview in terms of what we mean by child sexual abuse.
Yes, please.
And within this discussion, Madam Araba will be giving us some statistics of how prevalent is this child sexual abuse, how common is it, and we will be looking at the law, where the law comes in, looking at barriers. What are some of the barriers that prevent people or prevent families from seeking help? what are some of the barriers that prevent children or victims from seeking help? We'll be looking at the barriers. And again, we'll be looking at the reporting process. So, I mean, what do you do if your child tells you that, this person has sexually abused me, or, this person has, for instance, raped me? What is the reporting process? We will be looking at the place of poverty in child sexual abuse, particularly when we're talking about, child sexual abuse in our part of the world, in developing countries. We'll look at where poverty, how poverty can heighten or can create situations where child sexual abuse is prevalent, if I should say. And then again, we'll be looking at cultural influences, the place of culture. I mean, to be fair, I mean, this child sexual abuse on its own is a very big topic. It's a massive topic. So what we aim to tonight or this evening is just to give a highlight, just to give a snapshot of this topic. And then later on, we'll be looking to break it into the different parts. So we'll come back again to treat this topic in more detail. But then, like I said, we'll have it in different parts. But then this evening, it is just an overview. So I'll just start by, looking at what we mean by child sexual abuse. Some people are saying on Facebook that they don't see the topic. I'm not sure if we can put it somewhere.
I rotate the topics and people's comments.
Yeah.
You can see the comments.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so for our viewers, the topic this evening is child sexual abuse, awareness, prevention, and support. So we'll start by, what do we mean by child sexual abuse? Child sexual abuse basically involves forcing or enticing a child or young person to take part in sexual activities. I want us to know that, for the victim, for the child who is taking part in that sexual activity, the child may not realize that this is abuse. The child may not realize that this is wrong, because the child is a child, if I should put it that way. All children are vulnerable by virtue of being children. So the child will not realize that this is not acceptable, this is wrong. And I want us to again know that when a child is sexually abused, we never should we assume that, or should we think that the child is also or the child is to blame. Please, I want us to bear in mind that it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of strength, it takes a lot of boldness and courage for a child to come to you and tell you that, this person has sexually abused me. Because many times, let's face it, in many rape cases, perpetrators will tell the children that, or the victim, that if you should tell anybody, you're going to die, I'm going to kill you, or something would happen to you. So they threaten them so they can keep quiet. So for the child who is able to come to you and tell you that I have been sexually abused, the last thing the child wants is for you to go again and for you to blame that child. That is a recipe for disaster. What will you be doing to that child then? Blaming that child. Yeah. So child sexual abuse, a child who is being abused, is never the child's fault. And again, we also need to know that perpetrators of child sexual abuse can be both men and women. Victims can be both men and women. Victims can be both males and females. Abusers can be both males and females. However, research is saying that the vast majority of victims of sexual abuse are females. So over here are children, female children. So the vast majority of victims of sexual abuse are females. And the research again saying that the vast majority of perpetrators of sexual abuse are males. This is not to say that females cannot abuse boys, but then research is saying that the majority of
Let's jump in there a little bit.
I want you can have.
Elsie, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Let me jump in here a little bit because I don't want us to gloss over this fact.
Okay.
I think the fact that young girls have been abused in our community extensively, especially back home, is known by a lot of us. But what a lot of us know of and don't quite acknowledge is the young boys who were initiated at age 5. So I had a program here last week, and there were men who came on my show and they were telling me some of them got initiated into sex as young as 5, at 7, at 9, by married women and people who shared the apartments where they lived. So they called them, and some of them were full on, some of them were to an extent. But it is also quite rife in our community for young boys to be initiated by elderly women. And this has also been a fact in our community for a while. But a lot of us actually gloss over it. A lot of us pretend we don't know it. Maybe a few people who don't know that system might not be aware of, but this is very prevalent as well. So maybe the statistics is actually skewed because a lot of us don't even realize some of the things that come under this domain. A lot of people don't realize it. I was stunned by the feedback of that show and the number of men who came back to me to tell me that before age 10, they were having sex with married women or they were performing sexual acts onto married women, elderly women in the houses that they shared, the communities they came from. So I wanted to highlight that bit. I see where the stats is. We'll come back and talk stats. I also want to make sure that we are clear of the realities on the ground too, because this one we cannot also ignore. I apologize, Elsie. Could you continue, please? I just wanted to highlight that particular one.
Yeah, that's fine. Obviously, it's an interaction, it's a conversation, so we will be chipping in every now and then. Yeah, and again, so like I said, majority of abusers or perpetrators are males and victims are females, majority. Yeah, and again, we should also, I mean, for instance, in terms of the victims of being males, if you've got like a 14-year-old, yeah, and then the 14-year-old has got a sugar mommy,
Yeah,
that is child abuse.
yeah.
So the fact that we've got, so over here we've got a boy with an older woman who is abusing child, or this child, and then giving the child money. So that is also another form of, that is also within the remit of sexual abuse, where we see that the male is the victim. And again, some people have got a myth that abusers are strangers. I want us to understand that research is saying that majority of abusers or perpetrators of child sexual abuse are people known to the family. So we could have an uncle, we could have a cousin, we could have mom's brother, we could have a stepdad, we could have whoever. In fact, there had been when you read, research is saying that, right, there's a high proportion of stepdads, with all due respect to stepdads, I know that most of them are doing a lot of good work, really working hard and, caring for their stepchildren. However, research has also stated that, we've got a number of stepdads who are, sexually abusing their stepchildren. So like I'm saying, people who abuse children are not people who are far away from the family, who are not known to the family. These are people, majority of these people, of these perpetrators are already known to the family. So what happens is they have been able to gain the trust of this child already. So if this child is thinking that, oh, this is my uncle will never hurt me. So if my uncle is telling me that, oh, he needs to do this to me, he needs to do what he wants to do to me because it's a way of making me a woman as I'm growing up. Or if my uncle, why would my uncle hurt me? So they have been able to develop or groom the child.
Okay.
Groom the child.
Kofi, can you hear me?
I think
I can, yeah.
Araba, I can see you are also there. Right. Good.
Yeah.
Before Elsie returns, because Elsie is frozen, before she returns and continues, I want us to pick that section up a little bit. When I spoke about Elsie, are you back? Can you hear me, Elsie? Are you back on? Right, we might have to pick that up with Elsie in a minute. Kofi, let me come to you whilst I
Okay.
take this with Elsie. So Elsie was making some points. I want to know if you actually knew how much of the abuse of young boys actually occurred in our age range when we grew up. Were you aware of it?
We sort of heard it. We heard it from, I mean, mainly from friends, and when we went to secondary school, some people shared different stories, but it wasn't as rampant as you were saying it, as you were just saying it. But we heard there were some stories. But one of the things is this. I mean, if the relationship between the boys were with older men, then definitely they will be going to, because knowing Ghana's laws against homosexuality and all the rest of it means that virtually they won't even talk about it at all. So if it was with older women, probably they will say it. But I think there's also another dimension where older men are abusing younger boys as well, which is also rampant. And because of the tight lip on homosexuality in Ghana, it means that this is another area that is not even talked up at all, which is also happening as well. Yeah, so I would say I heard something as we were growing up. People were mentioning, but I have to be honest, it wasn't as rampant as you were saying. But I know definitely it was there. I mean, in the same way as the young girls being abused, being groomed, gifts, giving them gifts and telling them secrets, gaining their trust and trying to alienate other people from them, and then the abuse going on and on and on. And yeah, so yeah, it's something that I think is actually happening. Yeah. Yeah.
So you were aware of it, but maybe not to the extent. I think that was the case with you as well. Araba, what
Yes.
about you? Is that something you were aware of?
I have I've heard from a few people that I know.
Okay.
You know, yeah. So I know someone who told me that a man now, that he was touched by a woman, an elderly woman. So, but to be honest, growing up, I wouldn't say I knew that existed. What I knew or what we heard were, young girls being abused by elderly men. It wasn't something that I would say I actually knew of until I grew up. And that was only because of, well, apart from knowing it from research and the data, also because someone actually confided in me like that. Yeah.
It's been an experience great since I opened the lid to this topic. And people started confessing and confiding the things that occurred to them. And most people in Ghana would say that it's a new occurrence. It is new bad habits we've learned from abroad. I just want to
no, it's not. It's not. People just don't talk about it. But
yeah, that's the thing. Yes. Yeah.
We are a funny community. We sort of hide things. We condone things without necessarily understanding that we are condoning certain things.
Yeah.
We are
Yeah.
enabling certain things. And that's one of the important things I want to clarify whilst we have this conversation. I want us to know the statistics. I will come to you, Araba, because Elsie wanted you to give us some stats, because I know that is always shocking when you see numbers. Go on, hit us.
Right. So we know that child sexual abuse is a universal problem, just like you have highlighted. Now, the estimates vary depending on the country you're looking at, depending on what aspect of, because child sexual abuse comprises so many things. So depending on what you're talking about, depending on the coverage, are they looking at the whole nation? Are they looking at just few regions? And also depending on the quality of data. I mean, if you do research, you know that data also influences what kinds of estimates you get. But having said that, I have a few figures here. I'm going to start with a global picture. So let me talk about what we said about the boys. I have some old data. Unfortunately, I didn't get the latest for the boys. So in 2002, so this is quite old, but from UNICEF, 150 million girls were sexually abused, and 73 million boys globally. So this is very old data, were also abused. But the latest from UNICEF says that each year we have about 120 million girls who are abused. This is quite recent. Now, to break that down and make it more comprehensible, that translates to about 1 in 10 girls. 1 in 10 girls is sexually abused globally. Okay. This is from UNICEF. I checked WHO as well, and this is data from 2016. They, I think this was assessed among women. So 1 in 5 women, adult women, reported being sexually abused. This is also a global picture in 2016. So what I mentioned earlier was for children. So now women, looking at retrospective experiences, 1 in 5 women reported being sexually abused as a child, and then 1 in 13 men. So yeah, it's alarming. The men also do get abused, even though it's like 3 times more in women. So 1 in 13 men was also abused as a child. Now let's come to the UK where we live. I checked the Office of National Statistics, ONS, and I think their year ends every March. I didn't get for 2020, so I looked for the data for March 2019. So at the end of March 2019, 75,000 sexual offenses among children had been reported.
Wow.
75,000 for the year, just 1 year. And as LC rightly said, sorry, Amma.
Just one country.
Yes, just one country. Just one country. And as LC rightly said, 40% of these were from friends and acquaintances. 40%, so the strangers were even less than the friends, the family, and the acquaintances. Okay, I always want to break it down. What does that mean? The 75,000. So according to another children's charity known as the NSPCC, those of you who work with social would know that this is translated to 1 in 20 children.
Oh my God.
And that's why I said that the statistics vary. When I presented the global picture, I said 1 in 10, but it differs. So it will be worse for certain countries, it will be less in certain countries. So NSPCC says it's 1 in 20 children. That is still a lot. 1 in 20 children.
1 in every class. 1 in every class.
Yeah,
if not more, because this is an average, if not more, so you always have to think about the fact that it could be worse, it could be, so that's 1 in every class, if not more.
Every class you teach potentially has 1.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. Okay. So still going on, I decided to look for data from Ghana. And I couldn't find a lot. I don't say that the data doesn't exist. I couldn't find a lot, so very little data. But then I found this document by UNICEF. So UNICEF had a report on child protection-based research that was conducted in 2014. And the first statistics I have here says that, so they conducted a survey among children between the ages of 14 and 17. And the question was just, so in the last 1 month, were you touched inappropriately? That was just a question they asked some children, a group of children. Among these children, 11% said that within that 1 month, they had been touched inappropriately. That translated to about 142,000 children.
But that's on an assumption the kids know what inappropriate touch is. I don't think a lot of people know. An uncle squeezing here, an uncle touching here might not even be perceived as inappropriate touch.
Unless, of course, if they did a bit more of, doing the survey. I don't know. I didn't go into the details of that, but you are right. The numbers could be higher than what we have here. The numbers could be higher than what we have here.
Who have been abused. But when I've done programs, they'll come back to me by, oh my God, I was abused as a kid. I didn't know. I'm in my 40s. I'm like, are you kidding me?
The education is not there, Amma. It's abuse. Sex is a taboo in most of our communities, in most of our religions, and most of our homes. We don't talk about it. So we don't teach our children what it is. So they don't even comprehend when it's happening. They don't know.
No,
they don't know. Now, going back to the statistics, so there was also same reports. So apart from what the UNICEF people, they also took data from Ghana Demographic and Health Survey. That also reported. So it's also a sample. It won't be the whole country. So within the sample that they assessed, 22% of, again, 14 to 17 years were sexually abused. But Plan Ghana did, I think, a more thorough assessment and said usually about 14% of school children are sexually abused. Now, the issue is, how reliable are these statistics? Because we all know that a lot of the cases go unreported.
Yeah, it's underreported. Yeah.
Very much underreported. But even the little that gets reported, look at how alarming the figures are. Okay.
That's scary, really.
Yeah, it is scary. And I still have a lot more. I don't know if you want me to go on with some more.
Because I want people to put the data out. I want people to know what the actual reason is.
Yeah, okay. So still in Ghana, I did a bit more search, and there was this study conducted by, so this is not like one of these surveys, it was someone's research that looked at children, school children. I think the number was between 2,000 and 3,000, and about 27% of these female children reported being abused. 11% boys were abused. Yeah. They also looked at street children. You know how vulnerable street children are. 50% of the street children in Ghana had been abused by, and this was a study conducted by Ohene Johnson and his colleagues in 2015.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Right. Let me come visit the two of you.
Yeah. Let me end it here for now.
Okay. And then we'll come back to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
before you disappeared, do you want to continue?
Yeah. So I mean, I did say that the vast abusers or perpetrators are people known to the family, and that they are not strangers, and that they tend to groom the child, gain the trust of the child, gain the attention and affection of the child, to spend more time with the child, gift money, and all that, and that is and this is part of the grooming process. And then again, telling secrets to the child. Oh, don't tell your mom about this. Oh, just get this money. Don't tell your mom. It's just for you. Oh, I bought you a mobile phone. Oh, just get it. Oh, I like your hair. Your hair is so beautiful. Oh, I like your dress. Oh, I like your shape. Oh, you look so beautiful in that dress, in that jeans. Oh, so these little affections, attentions, this gifts, this money, this secrets. Yeah, secret. Don't tell mommy. Don't tell daddy. Don't tell mommy. Don't tell this person. So the child would think that, oh, this person really likes me, because if you didn't like me that much, you wouldn't be telling me secrets that you don't want me to tell anyone, because I'm so special. Because this person likes me, even though mommy and daddy are saying that they can't afford mobile phone or this particular brand of mobile phone. Uncle is buying it for me. Uncle is such a nice person. So this uncle is in a clever way winning the child to his side, because mommy is saying that I can't have this particular dress because it's too expensive, but then uncle is buying it for me. And sometimes uncle may even buy something for you and tell you that don't tell your mom or your dad that I bought it for you.
But that's because, isn't it?
That's all strategy.
Strategic is what that is.
Yeah. So that is it. And then again, I want us to also be aware that, when we talk about child sexual abuse, there are some cases that a child can be abused by another child.
Yeah.
A child can be abused by another child. So when I have worked, I have come across cases where, for instance, we have maybe a 12-year-old child being abused by a cousin who is, or a brother who is 16 or who is 17. What we need to know is that this person who is abusing this child, or this person, the victim, is the abuser here is also a child. And then it makes you think, so how do we work with it? So when as social workers, when we get such cases, you are just thinking, how do I go around this case? Because this child is also, this person is a child within his own right. And then it's your job as a children's social worker to try and understand where this is coming from, to try and understand that this child also needs support. Even though he is the abuser, he sort of needs support. So you try and pick, and then in the UK, we've got agencies like NSPCC who are doing some really wonderful work with such people, with such children who abuse, with such young people who abuse other children, because the act in itself is called harmful sexual behavior because it is not normal. So it's called harmful sexual behavior. Research is saying that a number of people or these young people who abuse other children stems from the fact that many of these young people have also been abused when they were much younger. And that is what research is saying. So because they have been abused themselves, sometimes they don't even see that there's anything wrong with what they are doing. And that is why, these people need some therapeutic support themselves. Obviously, in such cases, we will by all means involve the police because it is a criminal offense. But then, looking at the welfare bit, we will look at how the child himself can be supported. So we've got a case over here too. I want us to also know that when we talk about child sexual abuse, we've got two types. One type is the contact. So we've got the contact abuse and the non-contact abuse. And I think it's very explanatory. When we talk about contact abuse basically is where an abuser makes a physical contact with a child. So we've got rape cases, we've got, making the child to touch some part of your body, or you touching the child and fondling the child's body, stuff like that. And then we've got, and then again, kissing the child is all part of the contact abuse. Oral sex is part of the contact abuse. So contact abuse is not just penetrative. We also have the non-contact abuse, where the child is abused without being touched by the abuser. This can, for instance, happen online. Again, it can happen online. And again, making the child watch pornography, pornography movies because, you are preparing the child, making the child masturbate before you, showing the child naked pictures of, other people. This is all non-contact abuse. And again, whilst we are on this, I want us to also think about, like I said, anybody can be at risk. Any child can be at risk of child sexual abuse. But then what we need to know is that some children are more vulnerable to child sexual abuse. And I think that Dr. Araba did mention some. She did. I mean, we're talking about, for instance, street children. These are categories. So when you go to Ghana in Africa, these are children, who are seen, selling on the roadside, and then you wonder where their parents are. So they sell to make ends meet. Some of these children are not in education because they can't afford to be in school. They have to be there and sell to make ends meet. Some of these children.
Hold on 1 second, because I don't want us to gloss over. We are talking about some of these kids who are vulnerable. Kofi, I really want you to take this one.
Okay.
Vulnerable. Because as a frontliner, you will have the information on identification. So let's take this one for me. Which kids are more likely to be abused?
Well, some can be structural, so poverty, as linking with what Elsie just mentioned. So, for instance, in Ghana, if we have children who've migrated from where they are actually from to the cities, where they don't actually have a place to stay, so they don't have accommodation. So they're littering around and finding place to sleep. So virtually accommodation, feeding, and then looking after themselves becomes something that they're seeking. And so this will be one of the ways for abusers to abuse them. So they are very vulnerable to abusers because actually they don't have a place to stay and they don't have all the facilities that they need. Needs are not there. So it'll be one of the avenues for people to abuse them. And then talking about abusing, you think about them having protection as well. So they are there by themselves and they will probably seek protection of some way. Remember, if they are children and they are seeking protection in terms of having to go in for relationships so that they are protected, that's also an abuse as well because they can't give consent. So it's cultural, but it's also structural in terms of seeking, wanting income and wanting basic necessities of life as well, making them more vulnerable to abusers.
Let's go deeper. I'm not even just asking about those in Ghana. Let's come back to the UK. because I want the audience, I know a lot of the people who watch are in the UK, and I want a few people to realize some stunning truths. Which people in the UK are likely to be abused? Which people from our community, which segments of our community tend to have the higher rates of abuse?
Maybe I mean, just to add to what he said, we're talking about poverty. So when we have parents within the black and black ethnic minority groups, parents are going to work doing overtime. I always when I always talk about, when I'm talking to families, outside of work, to people within my own community, I do talk about building relationship with your children. Some people, because you can't quantify that in terms of money. Okay, so I'm supposed to go to overtime tomorrow, but then I'm spending the whole day with my son. But then at the end of the day, if I had gone to work, I would have gotten 80 pounds. But then I have been home and so they can't quantify it. They forget that, it's bonding with your child. Because and it has and then the impact can be seen, like, some time to come, long term. But then we are just concentrating on the here and now. One time we were doing a presentation and I was telling a dad that, in fact, one time a dad had told me that he has a son who is 16. Actually, was a mom. She has a son who is 16. And this 16-year-old was associating with risky people, young people in gangs and drugs and all that. So she was telling me that, what can she do? And then within that, I was telling her that, right from the onset, it is important. You don't want to wait till the child is 16 before you are seeking for solutions. Right from the onset. So my question is, how did we get to where we are? How did we get where we are? Because because the child did not just get up one day, to form gangs or join gang groups. It did start from somewhere. So how did we get to where we are? And that is what we need to spend time. Overtime is good, working hard is good, but then our children should be our priority. Spending time with the child. And sometimes parents can even be home with the child, but then emotionally they are not available.
Ooh, you got that.
Okay. Elsie, can I just chip in? When you asked that question about how did we get here? So I did my research here and among Ghanaians, and even though I wasn't looking at child abuse, I was just looking at people's, factors that influence people's eating behaviors. And one thing that came up was the fact that people, as immigrants, we always think about, we have double homes. Most of us think about remitting back to Africa. We have responsibilities back at home. We want properties in Ghana or Africa. And because of that, we just have to work, and then kill ourselves. I was just trying to answer that question about how did we get here? People just focus on, trying to get so much, property. And I always mention this because where I lived before I moved here had all these mansions. You should come to where I lived, that belonged to people here abroad. And they are not around. So at the end of the day, they build these mansions, and sometimes they have squatters living in there, or sometimes family members. And I always have to add that I'm not saying people shouldn't build, no. But what is the point in spending all your life here and having to, putting that pressure on you to build a mansion back at home and not having time for your own children, not having time for your own health, not having enough money to buy healthy foods? And at the end of the day, you lose your children to gangs. You end up at 50 years having stroke or, all sorts of diseases. So that was just, I know it was a rhetorical question, but I had to chip in. That
so I want to chip in a little bit right there. I mean, Araba has hit a few things with the property. Wanting to build, wanting to develop at home. But I think a lot of us, that comes from wanting social acceptance. Understanding that it's not physical things that actually validate a person makes a big difference. And the funny thing is, this knowledge is also linked in with the sort of broad awareness you create for yourself when you come abroad. So I asked you a question on purpose. I asked you, which kind of people are likely to see their kids abused? And it is in a very particular, I mean, it cuts across all social realms, but it focuses on people on the bottom of the breadline, if you like, the people who are striving the most, the people who need to work so hard to make ends meet. They are the ones who can't afford that extra hour to sit and monitor. 2 days ago, I put out a video about monitoring your children's internet history.
Yeah.
People were laughing at me. I do that every week. Every week. I go back through their internet history. I monitor what they do. I watch them, because now that we've given them free access to online learning, the threat is actually online. So when else you raise them non-contact abuse, a lot of the kids on our platforms, a lot of the kids are getting groomed. A lot of them are actually already being non-contactly abused. And the parents don't seem to be aware of it. And that's one of the reasons why I asked that question. Who in our community is likely to be prime fodder, so that those people become aware? Those who might help them become aware might also take that on board. It is in our community. We can't run away from it.
Yeah.
It's really good. I don't know how you could be. But where I taught most of my career in Manchester, the Ghanaian kids always made me cry. Because most of the Ghanaian kids that I taught were the most neglected people, and their parents were actually professional people. Should have known better. But we're busy doing other things. Would not come to school because they're busy sleeping after a night shift. And the kids just realized that nobody's really interested in their affairs as much as they should. And the first man or the first woman on the side who expresses an interest or buys them a food or does whatever becomes the only person who's expressing love, and it makes the kids so vulnerable. So. Yeah. I really do. Money is important.
Yeah. And then sometimes, parents can go to work and then ask somebody to take care of the child, or would take the child to somebody's house. And this child is being abused whilst parents are at work, and that is, so child sexual abuse is a very, very, really, really serious topic, very important. And, we need to spend time with our children, relationships, asking the child questions. How was school? How was your day? Within the house, mom is on her phone speaking to people, her friends. The child, and like Amma said, the child is consumed on the internet, on the games or whatever. Do you know who the child is interacting with? We've got online abuse, non-contact, and there's somebody there on the internet asking the child that, "Oh, you look so beautiful. Can you send me your photo?" This child does not know that the person on the internet who claims he's 60 years old is actually a 30-year-old man. And this child sends, is persuaded, and then she sends her photo, and sometimes she's asked to send a nude photo of herself. So she sends a nude photo of herself, and then later on, stages of abuse. So at the end bit, this same man comes and said that, "Oh, I want you to meet me here," or something of the sort. This girl says, "Oh, I'm scared. I don't want to meet you, blah, blah, blah." Now the man is saying that if you don't do as I say, I am going to post your photo on social media. Do you want your parents? Do you want your friends? Do you want your school teachers? Do you want the whole world to see this photo? And then this child is just, and then because the child knows that she shouldn't have done what she did, she can't even, tell her parents. And then she's caught in this web. Some children will end up going to meet this person who will sexually abuse them.
Yeah.
That is why it's important we spend time with our children.
Yeah.
Know what they are up to. Supervise their activities online.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And just to add to what Elsie just said, I mean, sometimes ultimately the children take their lives. I mean, there were instances in the town that I'm teaching where a young child had to commit suicide because that was blackmailing, was the intent was so high that he couldn't do anything, and she had to hang herself. So this is serious. So this can transmit into very serious consequences. So I think parents should be more listening. We should be listening to children, engaging them. Yeah.
Another Another example of the blackmail that I thought I should mention, apart from the photos and things like that, when we have all these strict rules about chastity and all that, like in our communities and our religions, when it happens, so for children, even for people who are aware, when this happens, then the perpetrators blackmail them with that. They go like, you're not supposed to do this, and the community is going to frown,
the stigma, social
stigma, so people, we need a cultural change. I'm not against any of these things about chastity and all that, but it's the way we teach them to our kids, so that if someone is a victim, the person should be able to come out and tell her mom or dad without feeling, being victimized by the community. There's a program, I've never watched it before, but my husband was telling me about a program in the States where they have this doctor who fixes the hymen of girls. So there are people from certain communities all over the world who are supposed to stay as virgins, so they go to study, and then if they have sex, they have to go back. They have the money. They go to the doctors for the doctors to fix their hymen, because if they go back, they will not find husbands. And
sorry. No, don't take it to hymen fixing. A lot of our girls, Ghanaian girls, that I do, actually do anal sex because they don't want the community to know.
So they'll still want to remain as virgins.
But they still want sexual contact. So what they do is anal instead. And that's
so these are all some of the cultural factors, isn't it? A premium on virginity. And I mean, this is a reason for rape and defilement.
And obviously, I think that we are just began talking about the barriers. So before we actually zoom into, we can also mention that in terms of people or children who are more at risk of child sexual abuse, we again have disabled children. Some disabled children who cannot even talk. Verbally they can't say a word. Like we've got autistic children, we've got learning disabilities and all that. So if the child is not able to talk and able to tell you what is, that this person has abused me, so those children also are at high risk or more vulnerable to child sexual abuse. And then again, when you go to Ghana, we've got cases like house helps. House helps. When a house help is raped by madam's husband, what happens? Most at times, madam is saying that you witch, you have come here to destroy my marriage. You are a witch. Go back to the village. Madam is not seeing her husband as a perpetrator, whereby she needs to call the police and involve the police and involve the system. Madam is thinking about her marriage. And then this is all part of, when we come again, barriers to reporting. This is how, because as women, we have been trained or conscientized that marriage is the ultimate. And so if you are not married, then you are not complete. So this woman is doing everything she can do to protect her marriage. Even when a child in her house, a 14-year-old house help, has been abused sexually, she will simply send this child back to the village. Again, we've got other victims, other people like, the head porters, like the Kayayes in Ghana and all that, who are also really vulnerable. So I think that at this stage, we would zoom into the barriers. And I think we have just begun talking about the social stigma. So the barriers. So who wants to we're talking about the barriers, and Dr. Araba, did highlight the social stigma. And obviously this is really, really powerful because if so we've got the stigma on the child. People are saying that if you should report the abuse, nobody would marry you. So keep quiet.
That's a big one.
Again, we've got the stigma on the family. So your mother or your dad, they are all worried about other people getting to know that within their family somebody has been sexually abused. So they want to preserve the image of the family at the detriment of their child's, health or seeking for justice. They want to just cover it up.
Yeah.
They don't want any shame, they don't want to dishonor the family's name. They want to protect the family's name. Yeah. And again, okay, I'll just leave for people to just come in terms of the.
I wanted to sum up the statistics here. So Araba gave us some scary statistics. We talked about some of the barriers to help. We've done the role of poverty. We've done cultural influences. Of course, we are not exhausting any one of those in one sitting.
Of course, yeah.
The surface. But the one we've not hit yet is the reporting process. So I wonder if Elsie, you want to do the reporting process.
Okay, can I just, can I just chip in that? And again, when the police is being bribed, well, obviously that is still under the reporting process. But then when the police is being bribed, when the child is being abused, and then the police, for instance, in Ghana, takes about 1,000 Ghana cedis from the person who is the abuser. And then when the families are trying so hard to push this case forward, the police just saying, "Oh, I'll come tomorrow. Oh, I'll give you a call," all because the police has taken some money. So we're talking about the reporting process. Well, before that, again, we are looking at the barriers. We are looking at the fact that we society or wherever we have this idea that men by nature of being men, I believe in the uncontrollability of the male sexual desires. So by being a man, he's a man, a bema, men if you're a married man, a married woman, and then you happen to go on holidays, maybe travel, and then your husband abuses your house help, they are saying that, because the wife is not there, or a bema, how can he wait? So we need to also be mindful of that. Now, looking at the report.
Sorry, just that bit about that patriarchal men power thing. I just wanted another example that I know of. So there's this puberty initiation thing that is done among some Southern Africans. I'm not sure which country in particular, but research has shown that when they are initiated into puberty, so they are sent into the forest, to undergo certain rituals. When they come back, the prevalence of rape goes up. Why is that? Because when they are initiated into this thing, I think subconsciously they are made to think that you are now a man, and you are a superhuman being, and there's nothing you can't conquer. I'm not too sure, but there is statistics to show that after this initiation, rape incidence goes high amongst that community. So it's the training, the training to our men.
And we all have a role to play. So back to Emma's question in terms of, by way of trying to wrap up, we're looking at the reporting process. So obviously, when a child is sexually, as a social worker, child sexual abuse is a criminal offense, and therefore the police would have to be involved. And the state will take over, the police will take over. So it is no longer in the hands of the parents or whatever. The police would have to make sure that the police and social workers would have to come. So we social workers, we are looking at the welfare bit of it. The police are looking at investigating the criminal aspect of it, and we'll follow the processes. But then people are in our part of the world, in Ghana, the system has there's this really 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 stressful processes that a number of people will just say that, okay, because it can't even go anywhere. There was this recent video of a 3-year-old girl who was abused by this 65-year-old man or whatever. And then you're asking her to pay, the family to pay 800 Ghana cedis. The family cannot pay. So we are looking at the poverty part of it, the economic part of it. And then because of that, so because this family cannot pay the 800 cedis for medical examination, the case is going to be thrown out. I mean, it's going to be a dead case. What are we talking about? Yeah, now we've got the Ministry of Gender and Children and Social Protection in Ghana, and we are asking, what are we doing? Is it lack of resources or what? This is a criminal matter, and then you are saying that you are waiting for the medical examination, where the parents are also saying that we can't afford, and therefore because they can't afford, the case cannot progress. Again, like I said, you have this policeman taking bribe, 1,000 Ghana cedis from this man, and so the case is not moving forward. We have a number of challenges in our society when it comes to supporting victims of rape, victims of child sexual abuse, and we can't do better. We should be doing better for these people.
Yeah. Well, so as Elsie just mentioned, in Ghana we also have a system there, same as here. We have the domestic violence and victim support unit as a part of the police that does the investigation if it's reported to them, and then they'll do the investigation and they'll try and prosecute the case, send the case to court, and try and get conviction. But now we know all the impediments in their way. So there is a system there, but unfortunately, the legal framework is not enough to stop all this happening. That's what we've mentioned, all the structure and social factors that are working against it. Okay, and then how the time frame as well. There's a time lag between reporting, investigating, and actually taking the case to court. I think it's about 2 years or something on average. Oh, wow. So yeah, it is 18 months to 2 years, and then within that time, medical examination needs to be paid by the parents or whoever is supporting it, transportation and the rest of it. So virtually it wears them off. So they virtually few people end up going to court. So perpetrators, this is one of the things driving it as well, because they know that at the end of the day, they go scot-free. Yeah. So the framework is there, like here, but the enforcement is not there as well. And also there's one thing that is known in Ghana's law, which is about position of trust, which we have here in the UK. Yeah, we don't have it in Ghana. So I mean, so people, teachers and people working with children above the age of 16 are abusing children, and there's no really laws there to try to get them. Yeah, because but the age of consent is above 16, and there's no other laws there to actually protect them. So this is going on in churches and in schools and the rest of it. So I think that's one thing that needs to be lobbied for Ghana to at least add it into the criminal code, and get people to think about.
So we get this scenario, right, of a family who are distressed because their child has been sexually abused. They are caught in the middle. We've got the legal system which is not working. The police taking bribe, the processes, whoever telling you that you need to bring a medical examination, parents do not have the money, and then at the other side of it, we've got the pressure from the family and the society saying that, oh, drop this case. Nobody would marry this girl. So we've got the pressure from these people putting pressure on you to drop the case. We've got the frustration from this other end, and you are in the middle. And that is not a situation that any of us would want to find ourselves in. Yeah. We should do better. We can do better. And I think once we are wrapping up, we can just look at the effects of child sexual abuse. Let's look at some of the effects of, obviously when a child is being abused, we can think of what? Pregnancy.
Yeah.
A child becomes pregnant, and what happens? The child may end up dropping out of school.
Oh, yeah.
The child's future is at stake over here, and it is no fault of hers. Again, and then sometimes we've got what? STIs, sexually transmitted infections, HIV and whatever. Yeah. And then again, like Kofi had said before, suicidal thoughts for some children, because they just can't bear it anymore. They can't bear the shame, they can't bear the pressure, and it's just too much. They can't bear the blame from their own family.
Yeah.
Their family telling them that if you hadn't worn this dress, this man wouldn't have raped you. No. This dress is too short. That is why the man raped you. No. You can't, we can't do that. And again, the feeling of shame and guilt. Because sometimes this case would buy into the things that parents are telling them. Okay, so am I really at fault here? Maybe I shouldn't have done that. And sometimes, the stigma and everything and the shame that comes with being raped Some kids may even take their lives. And again, some kids would also resort to taking alcohol, drugs, and what have you. So we've got all this. And again, mental health issues, mental health. So we need to understand that, child sexual abuse has both short-term impact and long-term impact. And that is why it's important. It is crucial that we take this matter or this issue, this subject really, really seriously. Yeah.
Can I just add to that, Elsie? Amma, research has shown that children who are abused, their brain kind of develops differently. Research has shown that it has a kind of different pattern, and it looks more like soldiers who have been to combat, And as a result, this could lead to those of you who work in social workers know about PTSD, so you could have conditions like that. Yeah.
Post-traumatic stress.
Linked to mental health. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, children.
And so, sorry.
I was just saying, every child, it's one of the fundamental rights of every child to grow up in innocence. Yeah. A child should be innocent. A child should be protected from anything which compromises innocence. And when innocence is taken from a child, it has serious connotations for short-term, medium-term, and long-term as well. And one of the most important ways, one of the most significant ways of breaching a child's innocence is sexual exploitation. It's one of the surefire ways to lose a child, their innocent childhood. And it's one of the things that many of us, unfortunately, I mean, they need therapy, but Missy, even therapy doesn't necessarily stop everything. Yeah. Necessary. Yeah. It might do some retribution, it might repair some damage, but there's always something remaining that you live with. A child who grew up in a protected environment has a completely different life path from the compatriot who has been abused, who's experienced trauma. So it's really important to me as a community we understand. Look, not every parent is fit for purpose. That's one of the important things I want you to leave today with. Not every parent is fit for purpose. And as a society, it is your responsibility to watch out for children when they live with parents who might not be fit for purpose. And if you look at a child in that environment, it is your social responsibility to make sure that you use the trigger systems to report so that child is secured and protected. It has nothing to do with gossiping. It's not overstepping any boundary. It's your social responsibility. It's your moral responsibility that you don't turn a blind eye and allow things like that to happen to young children because it's not your child, because it's not your business, because it is your business.
Yeah, we said that. We said that safeguarding of children is everybody's responsibility. We are not just leaving it that to the professionals, to police and social workers or whatever. It is everyone's responsibility. That is why your neighbor is able to call social care or the police when they are worried about a child in your house. And like Amma said, it is not concern, it is not gossiping. The neighbor is prioritizing the well-being of that child. The well-being of every child is our responsibility. We need to be looking out for the well-being of children. So don't think that, oh, this person is my very good friend, I don't want to betray this person. No, the priority here is the child in that situation. Do and save the child. In social care, you can call and ask that you want to remain anonymous. That option is also there. So please, people should like call social care, call the police, look out for these children who are being abused. We all have a role to play. We all have it. And then if you don't stop it now, you don't know where the abuse is going to end. That child may end up losing her life. Thank you.
Or growing up and being a perpetrator himself. And who knows? Our children, you might protect your child, but your child is going to grow with other children. Your child will not grow in isolation. So if this child who is abused grows up and becomes a perpetrator, your child could be a victim. We don't pray for that, so we all have a responsibility.
Right. So guys, we've gone around, we've explained the problem. As we've all said before, this is not a one-off. This is an ongoing project.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to join this group, are you inviting members from everybody? Are you accepting donations?
Yeah.
How does it work?
Yeah, we want to work with people who are truly passionate, because this is, like I said, this is a job, or it's a role that needs people, that needs committed people. It is not easy, but then it is rewarding, and that is what keeps us going. So we want people who are truly committed to come forward and work with us. Together we can do more.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's people who have the expertise. Usually, I know some of these things require, so the projects and interventions you do will require money. Do you have a donation system set up for people who want to make financial contributions towards the projects?
Not at the moment, but then just contact us via any of our emails or telephone number, and then we'll take it from there. Yeah. But then we need people to support us with your energy, with your expertise, with whatever resources. You know, alone we can do so little. Together we can do more. So yeah.
Much more. Guys, it's a topic I hate discussing, but you've managed to make it bearable for me tonight. It's one of those topics that you discuss and you have goosebumps because you know the implications, you know the ramifications of it. It's one of the reasons why most people in our community elect not to discuss, but that's a wrong tactic. It's a tactic which explains why the numbers amongst us is so high.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming. Thank you so much for opening the lid on this one. I hope that we would get more people to come and share their experiences with us. Maybe when you listen to the victims, when a victim actually tells you their story, it changes your perspective completely. You realize that this is not a joke. You realize this is a lifelong suffering once somebody has actually been exposed. And then you probably will become more committed to preventing it in the first place. Araba, it's been wonderful having you on here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, perspective you brought to it. And yeah, I'm having to realize that I'm speaking more softer and calm.
Why is that, Amma?
See, I think it's very attractive, and I'm trying to mimic you and compare.
Oh, me? That's funny.
Once you notice, a bit more soft-spoken and try to
A very good doctor.
I'm trying to pretend to be Araba and learn Araba.
Oh, stop making fun of me.
I am not.
Elsie has brought me on as if I'm an expert. I'm not an expert in this area.
No, I keep telling her she's expert. And thank you so much for coming on. I know that it was a really short notice, and thank you. The research, the statistics has been so useful. Yeah.
Thanks. I'm on board now. So.
Yay! It's interesting, Kofi, to have you on here. Again, one of the things people might not realize, Kofi is Elsie's husband. It's one of the things that we don't do well in our community at all. A woman starts something and her husband becomes her opponent. The husband becomes somebody who acts against it, no matter how good the cause is. It's a funny thing amongst Ghanaians and our community, where a woman decides to do something and the man, in order for you to be masculine, will have to sabotage what your wife does. And it's ridiculous. It has to. It really has to stop. So it's good to see you here, see you not just talking about supporting the initiative, to actually see you on here and be part of it and contribute to it meaningfully. Maybe a few more of our guys need to watch this and need to learn, because we have that to learn. So God bless you.
Thank you for having us.
All right. So thank you everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Missy. I have loved your contribution. I have really appreciated the comments you've made all the way through till the end. It is wonderful to have guys. Frema, you and I, we don't say thank you. I've already said this many times. Thank you is inadequate. Nabna, it's wonderful to have you here. It's been great to see the contributions. Some of the things you've written, are devastating, but these are truths in our community we cannot run from. If you've not shared the feed, could you please share the feed for me? I did not even get a chance to put it in any groups or any of my network. So if you are in a group, if you have, this is in English, so it doesn't even have to be restricted to just our community. Put it in any parent groups you know. Share it to your own page. Put it as a watch party for me. Maybe because of you, one person would realize what this problem is. One person might recognize the signs of neglect. One child might be safeguarded, and the community would have done better service to one person. You might be that agent of change. You might be the catalyst who starts this sequence. And for that reason, do me that favor, please, and share the broadcast, share the feed for me. Thank you so much for watching. I owe you an awful lot. Yes, Rima, it's so sad, but it's a reality we live with. It's one we cannot run from. It's one we better acknowledge and deal with so that we can get better. Thank you so much for all your help tonight, and thank you especially for sharing. See you soon. God bless.